Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about 3%, Season 1, Episode 4. It's called Chapter 4, Gateway. Full spoilers for the episode as always. They are putting me through a roller coaster of opinions on Raphael.
Yeah, definitely. He
Like,
got so much growth.
so much growth, and then I thought they flipped it, and I was like, no, he's actually an asshole. He's like, oh no, it's actually for this reason. So back and forth. It's funny because at the end of the last review we said, "Oh, the next one should be fun." Now I'm trying to get out of this like maze of bunk areas, and earlier in the episode I thought, "Oh, they're solving it really quick. Oh, they're going to be out of here in like 5 minutes." I was hoping for more, but then it just kept going and it flipped it, and it's like, "Oh no, it's the whole episode." Good.
What I loved is this was essentially an adaptation of Lord of the Flies, and I love that book, and I was just that is what this was. If you've read that book, you'll know, and it was very well done.
I haven't, but I'm familiar with its reputation.
Hmm.
Although I'm pretty sure Lord of the Flies goes a bit more extreme later on.
I mean, they kill a guy, but I mean, no more extreme than this. I don't think.
All right, okay. For some reason, I thought that by the end of that story they were, I don't know, eating each other or something. But
Well, kind of.
just gloss over that. It's not that much more extreme. They're just eating each other.
I mean, this probably would have got there if they'd been in there a bit longer.
Maybe.
Because it
Maybe.
follows the exact same trajectory, just on a little bit of a smaller time scale.
Yeah, and of course Ezekiel's keeps being very ominous. Like, no, I want to see how this plays out. Let's do this. Let's change this.
He's waiting for them to start eating each other.
Pretty much. But no, I really, really enjoyed this one, and it's funny that we also said last time, all right, we're going to keep getting these flashbacks, and you even suggested that we wouldn't get one for Raphael because
I did.
he maybe doesn't need them as much because he's got a lot of growth. And it's funny that they took like him and Marco, who arguably neither of them needed them as much, and gave them both like half.
Yeah.
Marco gets a couple at the start, Raphael gets one at the end. There you go, they're both taken care of in one episode.
Yep.
And obviously Raphael's was far more interesting, far more intriguing. I think Marco, as much I kind of enjoyed him in this episode as just melting down, but I kind of that's early on in the episode I was like, okay, he's going to be eliminated by the end of this episode because that is really the only interesting and satisfying conclusion that he can possibly have at this point.
It is, and that's fine because they did that. So sure, it's what you expect, but it's for a good reason.
It's what you expect, but I didn't necessarily expect it to be because he turns into a savage, actually kills someone, and then gets the shit beat out of him so much that he can't even crawl to the exit. Like, I never saw that coming, at this point.
No, I didn't see that particular part happening. But I will say, early on, I liked that he took control and was living up to his reputation of his name. And it was like, okay, I like seeing this side of things until it inevitably goes wrong.
Yeah, that feeling of entitlement then turns sour as he believes he should be the leader to the point where he's, turned into an overlord, essentially, and is threatening people. If I have any complaints, I will say that I think the switch to this violent tension of them going all around with the metal beams was just a little bit too quick for my liking.
Well, see, I liked the first time where they just went in, took the food, and then left. I liked that. It's when it was like, now we're going to round them all up and put them in the bit immediately. That was the bit that got me.
I think for me, the moment where it felt like he'd went too far. And when I say went, obviously all of it's too far, but I mean like went too far in the sense I feel like it escalated to this too quickly, is when they go into that first room and they say, give us it all. Like, they don't even just try and take some, they say, no, we're taking all of your food.
Yeah, you'd think they'd have taken like half and then come back and gone, no, now we want the rest.
Because the start of it, the logic is kind of sound, because they're doing all this extra physical work, they think they need a bit more food to compensate because they're actually using the energy, right? And there's logic to that, I see where they're coming from, but it's that moment where he's like, no, give us all your food and all your water.
No, I get that. It does feel like there should have been 2 trips for that, maybe.
Yeah. But it does. I think the actor playing Marco does a really good job of seeming very crazy. Like, he's very neurotic. See when he starts sweating and his hair's all wet with sweat and he's got those crazy eyes on.
Yeah, he does a very good job of that almost immediate switch as well.
Yeah.
Like where he starts off, he is very rational, he's a leader, and then it's all of a sudden he is just this psychopath.
Yeah, and he of course does kill the girl, which is a very shocking moment. Like even like you kind of see him, like I seen him punching her. I was expecting a punch or a slap, kind of typical kind of I want to say pimp like activity, but you know what I mean, like
Yeah, just put her in a place.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But he hits her with the bar and like and it's funny through all of that. As soon as he starts acting like this, it's immediately Raphael who starts to look concerned and starts to look like, wait, you're going too far. And I thought this, obviously the more we learn about him in this episode, the more this kind of makes sense. But even at this point, I'm like, man, they're really doing a job of like, even he has this line, he's like, yeah, he'll cheat to win, but he's not a savage. He's not.
Yeah, it's like as soon as like he's down for taking some of the food because they're using their energy.
Yeah.
He's down for that, and I can even respect that to a degree. It's like, yeah, you were putting in effort to try and get out. You do maybe deserve some more. But as soon as he goes, no, we're taking all of it, he doesn't take anything. And he just stands back at the end to like almost apologise.
Yeah, he keeps back and reassures them, says everything's going to be okay. Like he tries to make them feel better.
Yeah.
And again, that's good character development. It's good, like we're seeing more of him, and we're, at this point we're really like I say, the roller coaster of him and his journey throughout this episode and what we think of him, to the point where after Marco does kill the girl, he immediately steps in and like confronts Marco, and and that's what leads to them like this mob chasing down him. And of course throughout the episode, Michelle and Fernando and their group and their sort of locker, who are one of the last lockers to be hit by the group, have heard about it and have had time to build a fort.
I wonder is that just coincidence that they're the last one they hit, or is Marco like almost holding on to his last sense of moral rightness and like not attacking his friends until the end?
Because he knows them the most. Yeah. There may be truth in that. Or it might be just because Fernando's in a wheelchair. Maybe he thinks, again, the same idea. He's holding on to that one last glimmer of, I am morally correct here.
Yeah.
I don't know, but as soon as he starts grabbing people by the hair and like dragging them out, and it's just like...
No, we obviously see, nope, way too far.
Yeah.
But for his perspective, like the idea that he thinks that he doesn't want to hurt his friends until he has to, almost.
Yeah. And obviously, the big intriguing thing here when we get to this point is, Raphael comes up to the barricade and he's begging to come in, like they're after him, let me in. And then he whispers something to Michelle, and we don't get to hear what it is. They leave it a mystery to us. Now, obviously, by the end of the episode, we don't get to hear the exact words, but we know what he said to her.
Yeah, we know well enough what it was.
We know what the message was.
Yeah.
And she instantly lets him in, and so that's mystery. But the whole thing's like bubbling up at this point, because Joanna's like snuck up through the chute where the food was being dropped in. And Ezekiel like meets her and like even lets her watch some of what's going on, it's letting her see how savage it is, and gives her some philosophical mumbo jumbo about the founding couple and how she should prove to be better in herself. Because at one point he's a bit of a dick. He gives her this ridiculously thick bit of meat, this steak, good. And she's almost a bit eaten. She's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, if you eat that, you're eliminated."
Do you know what I really liked about that there though? Her really struggling with the cutlery.
Because it was similar to the kid, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously we see her as perhaps a step above the kid, like in terms of she seems more socially developed.
Certainly she's more strong and experienced, but the idea that even the adults aren't that experienced with cutlery in the inland, yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice touch.
Yeah. I mean, again, it wasn't as struggling as much as the kid, but it was just enough, just a little sort of shake, just to sort of like, how
She's
do I
clearly only
tackle
done this a few times.
Yeah, that was interesting. But obviously this is all bubbling up, and she does go back in to try and the way she solves the problem is she actually breaks out all the people they've trapped in this area that they've been basically locking people away in, and they come out as an angry mob and attack Marco and his goons.
I like that she didn't bring back Agatha's shoes. She left them up there.
Yeah. Do you know, I think this scene was really effective though when they break in and they all start like beating up the goons, because I like that our main group, Fernando, Michelle, and the other ones in the room, they're sort of like still behind the barricade and they're looking out at it and they're kind of horrified at what's going on, because the group is like kind of willing to just kill all these people. Like they're this angry about it, and this idea that all this tension's bubbled over in this. Even at one point, Marco even calls it a micro society.
Yeah. I'll be honest, in this scene, I did laugh for just a second at how it was the Lord of the Rings, the Helm's Deep with Gandalf's army coming in. That's essentially what this was, and that gave me a little chuckle.
Yeah, and Joanna comes in and stops it and says, "That's enough."
Yeah.
And, Joanna being the one to actually maintain some order was kind of amusing in and of itself. And the rest, everyone leaves, the siren goes off, they finally open up the gate, and everyone who's passed walks out. Of course, Marcus, is still alive, and he's like crawling, like face covered in blood, and he's like clawing his way to the door. And Ezekiel sees this and actually sounds the alarm, and the door starts shutting again. And he still tries to get out, but he gets caught halfway and like dies. And I think his determination to do this, but it's turned him into a monster.
Yeah.
This assumption that he is, worthy of this, that he should just be handed this to him. Because the couple of flashbacks we do see him earlier on in the episode, where we see that his parents, before they went through, like left him a message. He does the same for his kid, that we find out that he's impregnating someone.
Do you know what my little thing is? I wonder if his parents never made it through either. Because at this point, his kid is going to assume he made it through. Because they don't get told otherwise. He's just not going to come back.
That's true. Has anyone... Well, I don't know, in an interview in the first episode, did the person interviewing him mention that his family always go through? I can't remember if they did. They might
have done, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But they might just be playing along for the story.
Could be.
Who knows?
But no, I thought all this... I thought pretty much all the main plot of this episode was really entertaining and really exciting, and then occasionally very dark. When he snaps and kills the girl, it's actually kind of a hard-hitting moment when you see the blood like pouring down her face. Yeah,
definitely. It's really impressive that how hardcore but emotional it is.
Yeah, and like I say, the strength of this show is getting a group of characters in a room and letting them play off of each other. This was a slightly bigger example of that, but it still very much was one location, all these characters, and all the personalities bubbling over as the fight for survival kind of ensues. So, no, but let's talk about Raphael then. What he said to him. So we get a flashback with him, and we see him with his brother, and they're celebrating because his brother is going to be going into the process in a week's time, and we of course find out that his brother is Raphael, which makes sense because we already learned from Joanna that her name wasn't really Joanna either, because she had the fake implant. She had the stolen one. So obviously, okay, he's going to take his implant. And at first I'm thinking, okay, well, does something bad happen to him? Is it an accident? And he decides to take it afterwards. I mean, in fact, even before we talk about that, I think it's just kind of fascinating in and of itself that Raphael has already done the process and failed early.
Yeah, he says first day. I mean, I'm almost assuming it's the interview, because when it got to the cubes, he had to steal one still. He'd had no it didn't look like he'd had any practice at it.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he didn't get past the interview before.
Possibly. It's kind of hard to say, because even the cube thing, like, you could argue that would one time a year ago be enough?
Yeah, that's true. But then at that point, he'd know about it, and he could, think about it and practice. Because we saw even, I think it was Fernando as a kid practicing the cubes, right?
Yeah, I think maybe. I can't remember exactly what he was
We've seen it somewhere.
Yeah.
But, the idea that he could practice cubes, like he could have done something, but he didn't.
Yeah, but if Fernando's a kid practices the cubes and he knows about it, why doesn't Raphael just know about that anyway?
Good point. Good point.
Maybe
I'm mixing it up with someone.
Maybe. And Ezekiel has a cube thing in his office that the kid was playing with.
Maybe that's what I'm mixing up with.
Is that what you're thinking of?
Might well be.
But no. So he gets his brother blind drunk, and then he cuts out his implant. And at this point, like, because at this point, I've come to the side of, oh, you know what? He's a dickhead, but morally he's actually kind of a sound guy. In the sense that he did save everyone. He stuck up for the people being, picked on, and the micro society and all that.
Yeah, that's what I was. All this episode, it showed us that no, this guy has a sense of right and wrong, even if he is selfish.
he's selfish, but maybe the fact that he has been around these people for long enough now that he's starting to bond with them, maybe, there is a sense of humanity in there. And it almost feels like he's doing something really dickish, because he says he's sorry to his brother as he's taking out the implant, but we're like, this is really, this is cruel and evil. He's taking away his chance. Like, why is he doing this? This feels extra selfish on top of everything else we've already seen.
Yeah.
And then we immediately get a scene where we find out he's a part of the cause, and this is his second chance to infiltrate.
Yeah. And we've been saying the last 2 episodes, going, it's interesting how I've had no progression on this whatsoever. And then all of a sudden, it was almost another one with a nothing. And then one scene at the end and everything changes.
It really is. It's good storytelling, because it was exciting. When he said that, when we see this in the flashback, it was exciting. And it brings a whole new dynamic change to the show as well, because now we have Michelle's relationship with Fernando, which is what it is, And again, there was another moment in this one where she said something like, if the process asked you to eat shit or whatever, would you do it?
Yeah, it was because the other guy was like, no, if this is the process, well, let's just do what they want.
Yeah, exactly. But now we have this extra relationship that, obviously Michelle and Raphael had some sort of relationship before, but now it's different. Now it's completely changed because they know they're both moles, and he seemingly already knew she was.
Yeah, I don't know if he'd figured it out or if he'd been told.
Yeah, so now she has this secret alliance on top of the on-surface alliance with Fernando. And it could lead to some very interesting things. Because we end, of course, with them coming out of the gate, and Ezekiel greets them and says only 9% of people make it this far. And that's kind of where we end. Some smaller tidbits in the episode is that Alina gets caught breaking into Ezekiel's office to snoop.
Yes.
And the higher-ups are all kind of mad at her for getting caught, mad at him for not just accepting things.
Yeah, it's like, she's there on my authority. She can do what she wants.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the episode, guys. Episode 4. I'd argue this is the strongest one yet.
I agree. I also was like, not on the music. There's a lot of different influences going on in the music. I've noticed. There was some The Last of Us style guitar stuff going on. We had some Western influences. There was like a nice little romantic piano piece. There's all sorts going on. It's very mishmash, but it's working.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there. And again, they're playing with a lot of Dutch angles at various points too. One of the things I really liked, actually, just a small direction point, is when Joanna hits the guy guarding the prisoners, if you will. We have this shot where it's watching from down the corner of the hall, but as she goes up to hit him, the camera just slides behind the wall, so you don't see it, you just hear it.
Yeah, it works really well. It's because it kind of peers out from behind the wall and follows her, and then kind of goes back in just at the last moment.
It's almost like as if to say like kiddies, this is too mature. We have to hide.
But it's effective because it's like we don't need to see it.
Yeah, but in a weird way it works though, because if you imagine that as a kid hiding because he doesn't want to look, it's like we're innocent in this and we're perceiving this, and this is it almost makes it worse because it feels like it'll be darker because we can't watch. Yeah,
that's a good point.
So. But no, that's episode 4. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below, like and subscribe and all that stuff. Episode 5 review will be coming up later today, so thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.